Hi there, welcome to another episode of DIY with Ed. First and foremost, I'm not being paid or sponsored for this video. I just enjoy doing bits and bobs for myself and decided to film it and make it available to whoever else would like to make use of it and probably be inspired. Um, Many of us go through this process of trying to furnish a room, especially a small room, and then realizing that there is nothing out there in the market which ticks the requirements or the dimensions available to be filled. On this video I have embarked on creating my own wooden desk from scratch. That is design and build. Mind you, I have not had any prior woodworking, carpentry, joinery or fitting experience. I have watched some carpenters at work as a child, as I remember, but that's about it. This is just me attempting a DIY out of my comfort zone. For the process is very rewarding, as the desk built is for my 7-year-old son and for his room, and something, if taken good care of, should stand for a long time to come. And of course I'm expecting a bit of use as well as messing around, so it will stand a lot of stress, I'm sure. What I need was a desk with shelves, as I said earlier, which would be going up vertically on top of the desk in order to make use of the entire vertical space, as you would notice in this video. So I'm going from something that's just raw material with a very basic minimal design to then get it a bit more formalized. I'm not someone who can use CAD or draw, for that matter speaking, as well as I should. So what I have is a hand-drawn design which I have made available in this video. You need to pause it and have a look. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. The tools that I've used are what were at disposal what was at disposal in my garage, like hand saws, miters to get angle cuts, drill machines and sanders, and also filers. I think that is a file which I used to do some filing, but mostly it was sanding. The final dimension that I'm restricted to is 2 meters of total height, um, 75 centimeters of width, and 60 centimeters of depth. So I need to make a plunge hole, something like this, as you see in the pictures earlier, just a few seconds ago. Now the idea is to cut diagonal wedges here between these two, and then chisel my way this way and this way till I get line, which is 2.2 centimeters, so 22 mil in this way. And I'll be using the scale, yeah, to get an idea that I've achieved what I was trying to. It should eventually look like so. Trying to get my shadow out of it, but it's not gonna happen. I'll get better pictures later. Right, so next, chisel, get it in. And so I chiseled it, little hammer, chisel, and this is where we are so far. Slowly, steadily, with patience. Hopefully I won't mess it up. Let's see what happens. So there shouldn't be a gap there, so you can see that light passing through. So that's probably around 2 mils. It's not square enough. And same thing, this side. So I'm gonna keep scraping it with the chisel now until it gets flatter and gets the right shape. So what I mean by that is, you just take this chisel and use two hands, of course, hold the chisel with both hands and keep shaving it off. You see, it's like a pencil sharpener. Now again, I'm not trained carpenter, I'm not trained with woodwork of any sort, so I'm just experimenting. I did the previous hole with this idea, and it has more or less worked, so I'm gonna try this. And I need both my hands, so I cannot film this process, but this is what I'm doing, and then I do it this way until I get the right depth and the right depth and the right height. So this is not what it's going to be. It's going to be a cutout and then it will go in, but putting a 4.4 centimeter block, which is the width of the stick, the hole, the plunge hole that I made. So that just about works. And just to show you the finish, so as I said, the action of scraping, this action will get you some shavings out, and that is make it a bit smooth, which is why it looks the way it does, because initially it just looked like there were splinters coming off and it was gonna crack off, but that's not what's gonna happen. But you need to have loads of patience. Checking with the scale, so it's supposed to be 2.2. Let's check and see if there are any gaps now. So there are no gaps on this side. Yeah, let's check. There's next to no gap on this side. Yeah, no gap. You see, there's nothing. So that mil or two gap that was existing earlier is gone. Okay, so I tried to keep sawing, and then I kept this on top to check if it goes through. It didn't initially, so I had to make some more adjustments to the original boxing, and I think I might have 2 to 3 mil this way and this way before I managed to get this thing going through. So I'm gonna try the same thing while at the same time trying to attempt to repair the mess that I made over there. Of course I need to try this on the frame of the desk, but once I put this in, I think I'm gonna have to assemble the frame and slide it from the top, make sure that it actually works as intended, and then focus on the next holes, the next marking of holes, at least on the pillar, because then I'll get a little bit of an idea of how much of a adjustment I'll have to do for it, which I definitely need to know now. Loosely kept the front pillar on both sides, need to fit that, but before I do that I had to cut out this board, so I had to make a bit of changes, and I'm gonna on the back side I was initially trying to make a plunge hole kind of scenario, but that's not worked out very well on one side, so instead of wasting loads of time I've decided to cut this on both sides and put in a piece of wood over here and then cover it up. The wood would be something like so, and this will sit in like this, and that should cover it up. It's just, I find this will be a bit more neater once I polish it, and obviously first fill up any kind of gaps and then polish it off. That will just sit in fine. I'm gonna do this on both sides and at this point as well, and once I've done that I'll probably get a few more of these strips and just cover up the entire sides so that it looks neat, well, as neat as it possibly can be. So that's the plan. Now because I didn't get an entire board, so the length from here to here is around 60, so I've had to make use of 2 boards. So the plan is to mark up, well, this board is 18 mil depth, so on the sides I'm gonna make a marking over here every few bit, and then on this bit I'm gonna make the exact half a line all across, and then I'll take an intersection on both of these woods, and I will then drill in a 6 mil hole on both sides and use a dowel to kind of tighten it together and use some glue and fit it together. That said, that should hopefully keep it together and keep it tight together. In fact, here's what I've done. I've placed this such that these holes, they fall exactly on the joint between this board and this board, and I've sort of jotted a line. Before I did that, I marked once I was happy with the placement of the board, I just marked a line and made sure that they were in alignment. So 1, 2 and 3. So once they were aligned and I was happy with it, I kept this, as I said earlier, on top, and then using these holes I've etched a line on various points in the board. I'm not going to use every one of these to make that many holes, but I'm going to use every alternate one, probably one this, and so on until the end. And once I've done that, so I did that, then I got this to measure 9 mil, because this is of 18 mil depth ish. They're never right, and then I'll use that as a guide to draw a line across. The lines the dots I created earlier to draw a line across, create where it intersects, so I get the exact center or exactish center. As I was mentioning, although this should be 18 mil, but when I use the scale to the 9 to 9 mil, I found out that it isn't 18 mil, it's probably 17 or so. So I drew a line on both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the point where it intersects the two lines, and that's going to be my center. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, and I'm going to start drilling holes as so 6 mil. So the plan is to use a 6 mil drill bit to drill the holes in here on both sides, now that I marked them, and then place it in with glue. Right, so I've marked the center of this towel and then placed it in, making sure that it's got enough depth inside. So it's exactly half. So I've done one side of the board. I'm going to place this back where it should be, and then start cutting the second bit. Placeholder. This will still shake, but I have these clamps to keep this in place for now. Oh yeah, I didn't have the right size clamps, so I've used 2 clamps knotted together to just keep that in place. Anyways, I've then measured this, and I'm expecting it to be 30 or thereabout, which it is when it is properly tightened up, which is what I was trying to get to grips with. Right. The plan is to use this as a guide once again, to get 2 holes, drill a through and through hole over here, then 2 holes in here, through and through hole, and then put a screw from below just with the pointy bits out, place the beam on top of it, and tighten the screw up a bit and tap it from the top with a hammer or mallet, so that it gets a marking on the other side, and then drill a hole inwards. The intention is to use a 100 mil screw to go upwards and hold the beam in place, and that's the same bit I've used here. I need a bit of, this was more of a trial, so I need a bit of changes to be done. So I need to flatten these screws up, more importantly at the bottom. So at the bottom, if it's visible, not sure, there are screws out there, 4 of them. Need to make them a bit neater, but then I can do that later once I'm happy with the other side of the beam. No rush. Just about getting the pokey bit peeping on the other side. Let's start with the next one. give it a bit more pressure with the mallet and the weight of my body. It would have done what it needs to. Let's get it out and observe. One and two, 3 and 4. So I've got my 4 holes. So this is where it's at. This is the left side from the front, of course it will be left, and the top bit. So on the top bit, left side. So the plan is to first secure these this particular piece of wood, and by drilling 2 holes in here and putting a screw right through. So I'm once again planning to use a 60mm length screw. It's a size 6 60mm, so they'll go through and through. Once that's done, once I know that this is secure, I will focus on doing the others. So the other side is almost as suitably in there, and then come back and do the front and back horizontal beams. So we'll do this one and this one. So we'll once again put a hole through and through, so that it crosses in. So 60mm would or 100mm, whatever, would go up to here. Right, so as I've joined these 2 boards, I have now applied some wood filler to conceal the gap between it. I can actually lift the board from one side and have the whole thing picking up. So it seems to have stuck together. It's going to be lying to make sure that it doesn't move and it doesn't pick up. So there'll be a screw going through the bottom bit. So I've just used wood filler. All I'm doing is picking some wood filler and applying it and just gently increasing the layers. So the plan is to sand it at the end, thus making it invisible as per the wood filler. Once it dries, I will be sanding this, and if some gaps resurface, then I'll need to refill them and resand them. Probably next time I'll just use a plywood, and also technically I can just put a border on it, which I'm going to do anyways. So need to wait for this to dry. While this board dries, I will be filling up other nooks and corners, like at the top and on the sides. Other thing I've done is, as I think I might have, this was the first cut I did, so there's good chance that I messed up, and there was around 2mm or so of a gap. So I filled that up by putting one of the small piece of thin slice of wood, literally. So that was a 2mm wood. I don't know if it is noticeable right now. It should be. I don't think I've concealed it so nicely. And the other end is of course a bit jarred, like this edge. I've sort of flattened it with by sanding it and filing it, so to make it smooth. But I'll need to fill the bottom of it. Hopefully this wood has not got stuck to the, otherwise that's going to be another mess. I'm just going to take it off now, because I think I've left it there for 15 minutes. That should be good enough. Now this is the bit that I've patched up. As you can probably notice, if I can let the light fall on it, if there's a gap over here, because this wasn't necessarily flat when I pulled it out. It was something like this, and flattened it as much as I can, so I don't have to work on too much. And now I'm going to fill this gap in with wood filler, just to give it a nice finish, so it is in line with the other one. I'll probably be filling almost everything now with wood filler, And that's my job for this morning. And once I'm done with that, I'm gonna be sanding it, eventually prepping it for the next phase. I've put in filling for all the gaps and cracks in the wood where appropriate, and I'm gonna sand this down to level it up for getting it ready for the next bit, that is staining it. I'm going to use rosewood stain, so it will be dark, almost walnut dark color. It's smooth. This is post sanding. Use a power tool, and I've also tried to soften the edges where possible, especially the pointy bits on the top and the bottom. Some bits I was a bit too enthusiastic, like over here. Probably overdid it, but gives it a good feel though, and made a drastic difference as soon as the sanding work was done. So all flat now. All the corrections and all the errors are gone in and filled in. Oh yeah, I think this will only harden over time as I take it indoors. Right, I'm gonna do a bit of patching over here now. So all the mistakes that I've done over here, additional. So I'm gonna cut these pieces, keep them ready for gluing. I'm not gonna glue this to the frame. I'm gonna use screws to anchor it back up here. A few adjustments and we'll be nearly there. So it's good to have some pieces that you've cut around, because I've used that to fill in 1, 2 and 3. After that I'll flatten it, put some filling, wood filling, and sand it off. So that's the top. I've got some spare wood lying about. It's actually skirting board wood, so I'm just gonna put it at the top to cover it up. I've got other plans. I'll probably put a cabinet in the future, but for now that's gonna be there so we can keep something on top. The whole point of having multiple shelves. I've got enough wood to create one shelf. That's one, and the shelves are supported by wood pieces cut out from various bits of timber that I had around. And finally we have the desk, which is now got its major gaps filled in. So the major gap over here, there was a major gap over here, and there was another major gap over here. That's been filled in. This one's fine. There's got to be a bit of gap so I can fit this in. I'll be filling this in with, like I have filled in all other gaps and cracks. So I plan to use this angle brace. Other suppliers are available, but in any case I'm doing 19mm by 19mm from the underside. So basically make it as sturdy as possible, because this bit will be picked up and moved using this clip most likely. I'll be putting a strip wood over here and then putting a D shaped strip wood just for the rounded finish on the sides. Yeah, that's the plan. This is almost ready to be stained. After a bit of polishing, I've chosen to use a dark stain, so it's a rosewood color. That's going to be the underside, so I'm not too worried about those strips, but we'll see what I can do eventually. What I'm trying to do right now is take a D-cut strip, wood strip, like this one. So that is 18 mil, which I intend to place on the edge of the desk board, just to give it a rounded finish on the edges. And what I'm trying to do is see if I can do a bend. If not, then I'll probably use a miter, just to give it an angle cut, and then if required, sand it just to get it rounded. Anyways, that's the plan. And this will be the last of the nails. There's somewhere in between over here. Just feel it, make sure it doesn't get in the way. It needs to be flush. Either flush or a little bit inside. This is not gone in. I'm gonna keep hammering in. That feels better. Next thing I do is apply some filler. I'll be sanding this, so most of it will disappear. Don't need much, just a little bit. So I've stuck the D-shaped strip on all four sides of the desk part. I put some wood filler for filling any gaps. So I'll be sanding this again overall and then polishing it. And that'll be the end of me securing this thing in. So it has stayed overnight, so it's well stuck with glue now. It's generally, there are some areas which are not flush, so which is why sanding is essential, and all the gaps that existed are now filled in. We're getting this slowly. Just trying to give it some shape using a filer. May not be the best idea, but let's do this on all four sides. It feels right. Sander will be more harsher, so a gentle touch is what this needs. That's it. Feels right. On to the next one. Word of caution: when you put your frame together and you have multiple shelves involved, and it would be useful to probably hazard a guess and have a hole. So now my intention is to make this flexible enough so it can carry on up or down. I can move the shelf up or move the shelf down. But the problem was that after I assembled the frame, I can't really put a drill machine in, and without putting a drill machine in and putting the screw in, there's a chance of splitting the wood. So I'm being extremely cautious right now because I can't really place a drill, so I'm just putting the screw directly in. I know I don't need to put the entire screw in, so there'll probably be a wood piece like up here, like the previous one, so there'll probably be a wood piece of this depth. So this probably is 2.2 or so, but I'm just for now just making putting the screws in using hand and a screwdriver. So it's a mistake I've made. You learn. Probably if I ever do a desk of this nature again, I'll probably not do it this way. Pre-measure, put the holes in. I'm doing a 2.2 measure this way to make sure that I'm bang in the center. In a 30 centimeter height clearance per shelf. There are going to be 2 shelves, and the top bit, I don't want to put it all the way in. I just want to put enough to make sure that I'm right. Got it where I need it. This is around 27 from the top. This is 59 from the bottom. The crack which has occurred because of the screw going in, even though I did it by hand and very slowly, it's bound to happen. I'm just lucky that it's not split, so which is a good thing. Fingers crossed it stays that way. So I'm gonna just hide this off, although in reality there's gonna be a piece of wood on top on which the shelf is gonna sit, and it's just gonna be hidden anyways. That sits beautifully. I'll now be adding the brace. So I've put 2 already. I've put some clamps just to keep it tight on the frame, and a little effort I've added this front, so I'm just gonna be a bit cautious. I'll put 2 more here, then rest of them will be on the inside, and a few on the back, so won't be filming every one of them. It'll be extremely boring, I suppose. Right, I have sanded at least the top bit as best as I could. I'm gonna have to put the brace very soon, probably before I stain it again. And that's what it looks like now. So I'm gonna restain it with whatever is left, and then restain the top bits. Ta-da! So one of the shelves is placed such that I can draw it out, draw it in. This was done specifically to hold any electronic gadget, especially like a laptop, so it can be connected to the monitor. It works really good. Just lift the slab, switch it on, push it back in. So the last piece of the puzzle, attaching the top board at the top of the desk. Not pre-drilled holes in the timber at the bottom, at the base of this board, but I'm not putting big length screws. I just wanted to bite in so that it doesn't accidentally fall off well. And definitely the point when we store stuff on here, I think there'll be some storage box kept up here, as the whole point of this exercise was to use the desk vertical space at its optimum best. That's it. I've got 6 screws holding this down. The screws are around 20 mil. The board is around 10 mil, so it just gets enough bite to keep it in place. That and most of the things that I had originally planned for the desk, that's already being used. Need a chair for it. That is not something I'm intending on making from scratch. The things I would change about what I have done is gently sand the wood beforehand to get a smooth finish. Make provisions for the shelves beforehand, subject to design of course, so that you don't then struggle with not being able to place a drill machine to make holes so that you couldn't put your screws to hang your shelves. So one need not worry about working wood, as it is quite forgiving and mistakes can be rectified, as you would see in the video earlier, in most cases with just a little patience and thinking out of the box. And I must say a wood filler is your best mate, because you, at least as a newbie, will make mistakes and probably scratches or additional cutting or whatever, but you can fill it up. And in most cases, once it hardens, you have varnished or painted over it, you just not know it existed. And in my humble opinion, avoid using a cut or a glue joined timber at any kind of stress points, because there is a good chance that it will snap. So use the wood's natural fiber and cut it according to the size that you need. Glue and rubber doesn't hold it up for, say, your body weight, because there's a good chance someone would want to keep something really heavy on this desk, like up to 50 kilos, putting books which eventually weigh up and stress the desk. Also, while making plunge holes, make sure there is enough wood available at the edge of the area being cut. Least it makes it weak and could crack during the process of you sawing and trying to make the plunge hole itself. Again, you would see in the video earlier that I have managed to rectify it, and probably certain things I would use a plywood, come to think of it, instead of using a wood board, because A, it is cheaper and you can get offcuts of smaller sizes, and which you can cut down further to and make it as per what you need, so you don't have to join two boards like I have done. I would probably not do that again. That's about it, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So thank you for watching.